On a warm summer afternoon, three friends, Daniel, Sarah, and Joshua sat under a large oak tree in the park, enjoying the shade. They had just finished their Bible study class and were discussing Jesus' parables. Daniel, the most curious of the three, turned to Sarah and asked, "Sarah, today our teacher talked about the wise and foolish builders. I understand the story, but how does it apply to us?" Sarah smiled and opened her Bible. "Jesus told this story to explain what happens when we listen to his words but don't follow them," she said. In Matthew 7:24, Jesus says, "Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock." That means if we live according to God's teachings, our lives will be strong and unshakable. Joshua, who loved making things, nodded. "So, it's like building a house, right? If you lay a strong foundation, your house will stand firm even in storms. But if you build it on weak ground, like sand, it will collapse." He grabbed a stick and began drawing in the dirt. Imagine two builders' zone finds a solid rock and builds his house carefully. The other one is lazy and builds quickly on the beach. What happens when the storm comes? Daniel's eyes lit up as he replied, "The house on the rock stays firm, but the one on sand falls apart." Matthew 7:26-27. "But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash." She closed her Bible. "The storms represent life's challenges," she explained. "The house built on rock, representing faith and obedience to God's word, withstands those challenges. The house built on sand, representing a life without a strong spiritual foundation, crumbles under pressure." Joshua added, "It's not just about hearing the teachings, it's about acting on them. Building that strong foundation takes time and effort, just like building a real house. We need to actively choose to live according to God's principles every day." Daniel pondered this. He thought about times he'd heard good advice but hadn't followed it. The consequences hadn't been catastrophic, but they'd caused unnecessary difficulties. He realized the parable wasn't just a story, it was a practical guide for living a life of strength and resilience. "So," Daniel said thoughtfully, "it's about making conscious choices to build our lives on a solid foundation of faith. It's about choosing the rock, even when it's harder than choosing the sand." The afternoon sun warmed their faces as they continued their conversation, the parable of the wise and foolish builders resonating deeply within each of them.